You're listening to Three Kitchens podcast, hosted by your favorite home cooks, Heather Dyer and Erin Walker. For recipes and our entire back catalog of episodes, go to threekitchenspodcast.com. Well, hello and welcome to Three Kitchens podcast. My name is Erin Walker and I am joined by my co-host, Heather Dyer.
Good morning.
And good morning. And today we have a guest with us. Her name is Renu Bhardwaj. I didn't check beforehand. Am I good on that?
You are. Oh, good.
And Renu Bhardwaj is a UK-based author and food blogger whose new book, Celebrate Diwali, Recipes, Activities, and Crafts for the Entire Family, was just published in August. And it includes crafts, celebration tips, and of course, recipes. Welcome, Renu.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast today.
Well, we're really happy to have you. You're our first guest of this season. And this just worked out so well that we're launching our new season in October, which is the month of Diwali.
It sure
so we were like, easy decision on this one. We definitely want to talk about it. And we are big fans of Indian food in general. And really look forward to learning a bit more about making it at home. So this is great.
Amazing. I love it. I am opening season. I love that statement. But no, thank you for having me. And I love the fact that it's really nice to have this year that my book's available in America and Canada. Last year it was UK. And at the same time, I was thinking, oh, why can't it just be available at the same time for everybody? But it's actually nice to kind of stage that and appreciate it all over again, because it's so overwhelming when you write a book and it's brand new and you just don't know. You've spent months working on a book, writing and exploring and doing all of these things. And then Diwali's over. And then I was like, okay, what's next? And then it's lovely because then the cycle begins again.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it must be so nice to enjoy it more this time instead of, I'm sure, the stress and the anxiety around that first time and now being a little bit more comfortable with where it's going, right?
Yeah, it is. It's lovely. It is really nice. And I'm grateful that I get like a second chance at it, a second round at it. So I'm really grateful at that.
So tell us a bit about how you learned to cook. Because many of us learn to cook from our family members, but there may be people who learn to cook from a book like yours. How did you learn?
Exactly what you've just said, Heather. I've learned from my mum. I think growing up in an Indian household, everything's always centered around food. So my mum was a great host. I've come from a family with multiple, like lots of siblings. So we're always like, we have like designated jobs, unspoken, but designated jobs growing up.
Okay.
One person would do this. And I feel now my important role was so important. It's geared me up to the person I am today. So you want to know what job that was? That was condiments and sides. I am sorry, but that is one of the most important parts of that. And also being the chief tester for my mom. So she'd make food. I would test it. Yes, yeah. I would test it. Go, no, mom, I think you need this. I think you need that. And I would be the one that would do the sides. So like with Indian food, you have not just one chutney, you have a few. You have pickles, you have chutney, you have pickled onions, you'll have a salad, you'll have raita because you need a cooling dip. And then you'd have all the sides, set the table. And I would do all of that. So it was really, really important. My sister would like be the washing up. My other sister would do the prep. It's different stages that you take. So growing up being like that with my mom and really being into food. And also Indian street food is for me is the best street food ever. It's got such a nice taste. It's hot, spicy, sour. It's got all of the different taste buds that you do need. I'm salivating as we speak. And then I think as my mum would do a lot of hosting, we'd then go to a lot of family members and eat and enjoy. And I think growing up in that environment, it made a huge difference. And it's kind of continued on as I've gotten older. I have got married, I've moved cities, and then also being with a family of like my in-laws who also enjoy food. So it's taken on a different family and a different way of eating and taking on their traditions, but also bringing my own and like, well, I like this and I like that. And I think that's where my food journey has never stopped and I'm just constantly evolved.
I like this idea too of giving jobs, because
Yes.
sometimes we struggle as parents to figure out how to teach our kids to cook or how to bring them into the kitchen when it can be either they're small and you worry about the stove or
Hmm.
or knives or whatever it might be, or you're just not sure where to bring them in.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I like this idea of a job, and maybe if their attention span is short, helping with the prep and then off you go is a great way to
Yes.
start. And then helping, maybe
Hmm.
you're helping stirring at the stove, um, and then when that's done, you're done. Like I kind of
Yeah.
like this idea of splitting it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think as a lot of like people growing up in a South Asian family, I think mums have that sheer control over the spoon. So I can't remember doing a lot of stirring, but I actually
Okay.
remember doing a lot of tasting. But now it's great because as I've gotten older, she's like stepped to the side and let me cook and doing things like that when I'm home. But it's still my home comforts when I do go home. I let her cook. I let her spoil me. I let
Mm.
myself be in that position where because it's an open kitchen where she's just feeding me straight from
Oh.
um like a cooker top, and it's just amazing. And I think you never change from that role of the mum daughter, the mum child role, and letting your mum then cook for you. It's just the nicest feeling. And then I saw that when my mum also when we visited India, my mum slipped into that role of somebody elder cooking for her when my granny was alive then, and my mum like switched into that role as well. So it was really nice to see. It's
Hmm.
just like this unspoken thing where you just sit there at the table waiting for your food, and it's lovely, and I do it, and I see my
Mm.
children do it, and it is nice, and it is really, really important. And I'm glad that my mum took me on that journey of food, because the palettes that we have, or we
Mm.
have, like when I speak with my siblings, they're very different but also very similar, because I
Mhm.
would also then be that person. So if my brother does listen to this, I was always like, he'd always say, I love the way you style your plate, because we'd have multiple items of food. He'd say, can you just make
Okay.
me a plate just like you? So I would just give him my plate, and then I'd make my own. And I think we eat with our eyes, so that's also been really, really important. And we don't forget that Indian food's colorful. We eat with our eyes. There's lots of different options to have, because even on an everyday day, because growing up, my mum would cook so much food, and I was like, "Who's coming?" And she was like, "No, this is just for us." There's so many different elements of food. But if you ever did just stop by, it's like that. There's always enough food for everybody.
Hmm.
And my mum would just whip that up. And again,
Mm.
that's something that we've learned as well. So it was like, why have you made so much food? Oh, it's okay. Should anybody pop by? Should anybody need to come in? And there were times where people would just knock on the door, and then my mum would just feed them. They'd just be at the table. And before I know it, I'm serving and hosting them. And it was just that thing that would happen. It doesn't obviously happen as much now, just because people are busy in their families, and lifestyle has changed significantly. But yeah, I'm really glad of that. And that teaching that we have, and we'd have family over constantly, and they would say, "Well, come over, we'll make this," and we've made their equivalent of a Sunday roast. Let's come over and let's have this and let's have that. And I love that, and I really appreciate having that learning growing up.
Mm.
Hmm.
It seems so magical as a child when it's like all of a sudden all this food is spread out in front of you and you have that love and that appreciation
Yes.
and all those wonderful feelings. That's fantastic. So what were some of your favorite recipes that your mom would make?
My mum is a really good cook, so all of her food, like just growing up, has always been amazing. Like from starting off where a weekend would be like more of a slow day, we'd have like Indian brunch. So starting off with an Indian brunch, so like a paratha, so it's a different flavor one. So we'd have that, multiple cups of teas like throughout the day. And then should somebody come over, my mum would then start frying samosas or pakoras, because that's what I'd associate with, like, if you're having just like, like a duvet day, a pajama day, you just eat food, and it's all
Mm.
comfort food that you would have. So my aunt would say, why don't you come over here? We're having pakoras. We've just made a batch. And it doesn't matter where they would live, we would just go over and we just eat.
Mhm.
And I just remember we were just doing a lot of eating on the weekends.
Right.
So a few
Hmm.
things throughout the year that we'll have. And Diwali for me is one of them, where I'd have the indulgent fried food, where
Mm.
we would have something really important and plan the meal. Sometimes Diwali falls on a weekday, which obviously if we're working, you're coming in from work, just depending on the calendar, lunar moon and everything. So now I plan it, and it's when it's on a weekend. I was like, oh, brilliant! We'll come, we can enjoy it and celebrate it and eat this and plan the meals. Whereas unfortunately, when it's on a weekday, I'm like, right, I need to come in from work. I need to do half my prep the night before, blah blah blah, and it just takes that time away. Whereas when I'm speaking about it, it's like, God, I do miss the olden days, of enjoying this food all the time.
Do you ever say Diwali's on a Monday? Do you say we're going to celebrate on Sunday? Everybody come over on Sunday, or does it need
No,
to be on the
no,
day? Okay.
it has to be on the day. You could then do like follow up where people do, oh, I've been to like we're having a Diwali party, so they know people would automatically enjoy a family meal, like family time with their family. But then it could be the following week where they'll plan something. It's
Mm,
always done afterward as well.
okay.
It's auspicious not to do it earlier than anything
Okay.
within the Indian culture. So even if it's like any of the other occasions, is either done on the day or not at all. But I have seen like them pre-parties where if it's a community, then they'll do it afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now while we're on the topic, can you tell our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Diwali what it's all about?
Yeah, sure. So the book is about Celebrate Diwali, and Diwali is done and celebrated as a 1 day event. That we celebrate Diwali, but leading up to it, as I was also writing the book, I also learned that it's more of like a 5 day event leading up to Diwali, and it's never been explained to me like that. That leading up, there's 5 different events and there's 5 different ways you're going on to the main event. We probably do 2 or 3 without even realizing. Um, but Diwali is, I think and also it's so important to say this kind of resonates with everybody. You don't have to be like Hindu Indian to celebrate Diwali. I feel as if like saying this statement of festival of light and celebrating good over bad, good over evil, I think that kind of resonates with everybody. And I
Mm.
think it's one of those festives that everybody loves to celebrate because at the end of it, we're celebrating it with light, which is candles or little diyas, which we call little tea light as candles. And the fairy tale within the book shows like 2 gods. There's a Rama and Sita, and when I explained it as how you would explain it to children, it's actually a lovely little fairy tale of Rama saves his wife from the devil called Ravan, more not a devil, sorry, the demon, and he would come and save his wife who he took away into like the forest for so many years, and he came and saved his wife. And what the villagers did in order to help him find his path home, they lit the path with little candles and little diyas on the way home. So that's why we celebrate the fact that he celebrated and escaped with his wife. And then the Festival of Light is, first of all, celebrating that. Second of all, is the path that led them home was lit up. So obviously that's where it comes from, Festival of Light. And when I write that, it's so much better for children, just to say it's a fairy tale, it's lovely, and I think it just resonates with everybody. Ultimately, how I explain it to everybody is it is good over bad, and that's what I think everybody needs currently around the world.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think maybe it's something you could, I mean, just that concept, you could celebrate every day of the year. I mean, even if it's just within yourself, to, I mean, we can all use that, like you said.
Totally. And I think one thing I loved and one thing I learned over last year was there were so many people not necessarily being celebrated Indian. So whether they're South Asian, whether they're Hindu, whether they celebrated Diwali or not, so many people bought my book for that
Mm.
reason as well. Because they said, oh, we want to understand Diwali, we really want to appreciate it. And I feel for me, Diwali is very much a forgotten celebration. And what I mean by that is when I did speak to the publishing house to talk about my book, it was one of the things that I remember was when I went into my like children's school and I took a big box, like a celebration box of chocolates, just straight after COVID, individually wrapped. So I remembered going in. I said, "Oh, this is for this week," and I just saw the teacher's face going, "Oh my god, well, what have we missed? It's not a birthday, it's not this, it's not that, it's both before Christmas, it's not Halloween. Oh, she was like, oh, what have we missed? I said, it's Diwali. She was like, oh God, I'm so sorry, we didn't realize. And at that point I thought, yep, I know. And she goes, we didn't realize it's Diwali. We'll get that covered within the children. And I know she went back, because I saw her face, she went back into the cupboard and dusted off that like yellowy brown book that we used to have at school. And she explained Diwali to the children at nursery. So when my daughter Aria came home, she was like, guess what, mommy? Guess what we learned today? I said, please enlighten me. We learned about Diwali. I said, did you? Now tell me about it. And she told me everything. They made like Diwali crafts. And I was like, there you go. If you didn't remind somebody, they wouldn't have known. So I sometimes do feel it's quite a forgotten festive, which is a shame. But I think because everybody else like is celebrated bigger, this one sometimes gets forgotten or lost through lost to the celebrations.
It's so nice to know what its significance is and to be able to share in the celebration of it wherever you come from, right?
Yeah,
That makes it feel so inclusive and so just so nice. Just good things.
I agree.
Celebrating that light, like you say, that goodness, right?
I agree. I agree. And when I was saying, when I was writing this book, I'm just flicking through it just now. When I was writing through it and I was going through, and I was like, there's 5 days leading up to Diwali. How did my mum not teach me this? Like day one and day two. But when I explain this with the people, I think it's a lovely way to celebrate any festivities. Like the first thing is you cleanse your house, you're cleaning your house. Like you do a deep clean to welcome Lakshmi, which is one of our gods that brings prosperity and luck. So who doesn't want that? You don't have to
Yeah.
be Hindu
Yeah.
to get that. Do a deep clean first, and then once you've done a deep clean, we're bringing in like Marie Kondo. You're bringing in joy, out with the old, in with the new. So when I just read that, I thought that's really can resonate with a lot of people. We know how to celebrate Diwali. We know how many days and leading up to it and what you need to do. And it's true. We celebrate by first doing a cleanse. Then you work through cleaning everything, getting yourself prepared, and then doing all the little things. And I thought it's a really great way to know about Diwali, to celebrate it, and then what else to do. So I really liked that, as I was also learning and writing about the book, thinking how do I explain Diwali to other people? How do I explain to Diwali to people whether they're away from their parents, so if their parents are in India and they've moved away or may not have parents anymore, or they're starting their own traditions with their family. How do they do that? How do we go on? And there's no wrong or right, which is what I love for Diwali. There's no wrong or right. Every family has a different tradition. There's a different way of doing it. And that's what I love. And I think that's why I wanted to bring this book together, because every family will differ to another. And I'm one of those people that will FaceTime my mum, how do I do this again? Or to mum, what day is it today? What's it I can do? What's it I can't do? But what if those people don't have that call? What they don't have that person to call? And that's why I wanted to make this book, to bring it to people's attention, to say, okay, because like there's a part of the book which we do is how to perform a puja for Diwali. Now, I wouldn't know how to do it prescriptively, because it's always done as an elder person within the family. But then I thought, well, how do I do that? Maybe I need to write it down. So when I wrote that in my book, I also will refer back to that, just to say, how do you perform a puja, which is setting up the religious part of Diwali. How would I do this? How would I do that? And I just really wanted to include that in, because you can just flick through it and go, oh, actually, that's a good idea. You might not be traditional to your family, but at least there's a little guide on what to do.
Yeah. And I really like that you include crafts. I think it's a great way of bringing everybody together. So maybe the family member who's not so much into helping with the food, but
Yes.
really likes to get in there and do something creative. I think and they're
Yeah.
so beautiful and just they look so fun and festive.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the other things is where people find it hard to do crafts unless you have all the items at home. And I
Mm.
think those kind of crafts become really hard and expensive. So I've done different crafts for different ages. So you can
Mhm.
go as easy as you want to. And like one of my favorite ones that I actually did last year with my daughter was like to make your own garlands, which is really easy and lovely to do. And if you've made it once, you can just reuse them every year. And also the
Yeah.
sustainable lanterns, which you can then make, gift them as well to friends and family. But also you could just use them again for Christmas, because I feel it's an autumn, kind a festive season. Diwali's in October. Christmas is just a few weeks after that, so you can continue the lantern and have them around. So I just like the crafts that I can see myself doing with my daughter. But then if you don't want to make anything hard, you've got the Diwali lanterns, which are really, really easy as well.
I
Hmm.
just like also like the process of crafting,
Yeah.
whether it doesn't have to be complicated because it's so much about just taking the time. Like you say, we're busy. We're not, you're not living the way that you did, how you
Yeah.
grew up. And so being able to slow down, have an activity because it's always easier to connect over, moving
Yeah.
fingers and doing something together and that sense of accomplishment that you get together and that bonding you get, to and to celebrate with it too. It's just it brings I like that your book is bringing all of those things together. It's not just the food, it's not just the rituals, but it's all these things together.
Because sometimes we also forget when we were younger what crafts that we used to do, how to go on about doing it. But it was also so much fun to think of the different crafts, because this is the lanterns that we made. Look how lovely they are.
Hmm.
Upcycled glass.
Oh,
And I just think it's just so lovely to have. And they can come out each year. So once you've made them once, and it's a great way to do that. And then I just wanted to also include some edible gifts, because I also think in life, I think the edible gift is such an important thing to make, because it's depending if you've obviously got the ingredients, and everything can be costly for some people. So why not make it with love? And people always love a homemade gift as well.
Okay, so we should talk about some food,
Yes.
which is always our favorite part of any celebration.
Hmm.
Um, so we asked you to choose a recipe for us to make that we could discuss here from
Hmm.
your book. And so, can you tell our listeners what you chose and why you chose it? Do you remember?
So I believe I suggested the one of my favorite meals to make was chole bhature, which is
Hmm.
the spicy chickpeas, and make that with the Indian Punjabi bread, which is like the only way I describe it is like a fried dough bread, which is just delicious. What a lot of
mhm.
people will probably look at the consistency like of a pizza dough, because it's just really soft and bready and delicious.
So I made the chickpeas, and
Nice.
Erin made the bread, and then
Yes.
we did a little trade. And
Yes.
just before you joined us on the call, Erin was still enjoying some of that for breakfast.
Yeah.
So,
Brilliant, brilliant. Please, I want to know more. I'm going to stop talking, and I want to hear the verdict and how it tasted. And
okay, well, the chickpeas, this is to someone who clearly, if you're watching this or know of us, is not an Indian person. This is what I think of quite, I guess, generally as an approachable Indian dish that I can make. Because when you look at the list of ingredients, sometimes that's what feels intimidating about Indian
yes,
cooking. You think, oh my gosh, there's so many things. This doesn't look simple, it looks complicated just because of the sheer number of spices and things.
yes,
Mhm.
But if you just go through and prepare all your things, measure out your spices, get everything chopped that you need to chop, get everything ready, so that as you read through the recipe, it's just simply adding, adding,
yes,
adding, right? Like you're
yes.
simmering and then you're letting it sit. The one thing that I thought was very interesting about this is the tea. I don't know that I've come across a recipe like this that had tea in it.
Yes, yes. So this is one that's interpreted from I've taken on, not from my mum, but actually from my family that I married into, like so my mother-in-law. And I've also seen a few restaurants online do that as well. And it basically brings the dark richness of the color. and it brings like an
Okay.
earthy taste. But you can
Hmm.
also skip it because again, not every household would have that. My mum would never have that as her recipe, but I quite liked that earthy taste because chickpeas in an earlier recipe was on my samosa chart. That's a quick recipe, quick chickpeas done very, very fast. But this is more of a slow process of taste because you need something that's cozy, warming, bit of a sauce to dip with that bread.
Like this is like when you say cozy and warm, like that's exactly what this food, how this makes you feel. And I was saying that, we've had a few recipes that are Indian based and they just not necessarily spicy, but the
Mhm.
spices that are in there, they
Mm,
just warm your whole body. And I feel like they make your tongue feel just tingly and
yeah,
it's like my whole mouth is happy for a while. Like I'm still sitting enjoying it because I ate it just now. And it's
totally.
just such a comforting sensation and just eating that food it just all comes together in such a wonderful way to
Hmm.
it hugs you.
Oh, it makes me so happy to hear that because it's also as a when you're writing a recipe, because
Mm.
it's I make it without thinking a bit like my mum would.
Hmm.
That frustrating call where you ring your mum and she's like, just add a bit of this in, and you're like, well, how much is a bit? And I was
Yeah.
making sure that I didn't do that in the book, even though
Mm.
this is something that I'm very familiar with. And I think a lot of people who have been cooking for a long time, you can make recipes with your eyes closed.
Mm.
So it's really nice to hear that. And you're right, if I was to look at that and I thought, wow, there's like 8 steps. Okay, that doesn't look that bad. That doesn't look that bad. And we judge it by the list of ingredients, the length of the process. Um, but once you know how to make that chickpea curry, I
Mm.
think it's one of those things that you can just adopt to your own. So not everybody might not be able to find like pomegranate powder, it might not be readily available, but you can, substitute it for something else. But then you can also opt without it because it still will taste amazing. Maybe you can put some tamarind chutney in, or there's so many adaptations that you can do, which I love. And I'm so glad that you said that it gave you all those fuzzy, cozy feelings. That's what this dish does to me. It's one of my favorite. It's one that I eat on Diwali.
Mm.
It's one that when I go to India, it's the first thing I do to go and eat and enjoy because
Mm.
it's just a traditional, delicious dish. So I'm really keen to see how you got on with the bhatura, which is the bread, because which can take, even myself, takes some time to make. One batch of mine is never the same as another batch that I'll make. So I'm really keen to see how the bread came out for you.
The bread, I've never made a fried bread like this before, so I was pretty excited and a little bit
Mhm.
nervous on how this was going to go. And frying food isn't something for sure in my house that we commonly do. Food in
Not
was common.
It's not an everyday food. It's not an everyday
Hmm.
gadget we would try. So even me, I wouldn't have it. That's why I think
Hmm.
it becomes a lovely rare occasion food. That's why you end up enjoying it more as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it was really, really tasty and incredibly easy to make, I found. And so, because I'm never sure what to expect when I'm frying something, I'm afraid there's going to be a big mess. I'm afraid that, but this was because it's a dough and I think it's less wet.
Yes.
It's not spattering, it's not making a huge mess. I
No.
didn't get the puffiness
Mm-hmm.
that I think we
Yeah. So
wanted
the
to get from
rise,
this.
yeah. So yeah, that takes time. I think that's an art of frying, and it's hard to put into words because my mum's
Okay.
fries instantly, and sometimes if you've not, it's like a weird thing with the oil. You've got to kind of the other way to describe it is like how sometimes when people make a fried egg and they splatter a bit of oil on top to get that bit of a film. You've got to do this with the bread where you, even though it's frying, if you kind of do, I'm going to give the actions whether people
Okay.
are listening or not. You're just getting a spatula and you're just kind of pushing it over, and also sometimes pressing it at the same time to give it the rise. It's really weird without doing a
Okay.
full-on demonstration, but the
Hmm.
first one is always the hardest to make just because I think it's testing the temperature of the oil. Then the
Okay.
second, third, and fourth should come out faster and should come out puffier.
I didn't get that puffiness until the very last one. There
That's
was a little bit of
exactly.
puff in the first one.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
much puffier in
yeah,
that last one.
yeah.
And I actually kept like I strained and kept my oil because I want to do this again because
Yes,
just doing it once, I realize, like you're saying, it's something you need to do again and again. You have to go through
totally.
this process to figure it out.
Yeah,
Um, and get those little techniques and those little things that you're looking for that you don't know you're looking for. And
yeah,
so I was like, I know I'm going to want to make this again because when I talk to you,
yeah.
you're going to give me
Honestly,
that tip.
it makes me so happy. And in terms of when you just pull that apart, it's just this, even though you've deep fried it, it's
Mm,
still quite light, which I
yeah.
don't ever get. But it's so moreish. That's all I can say. You just want to eat more.
Mm, mm.
It's a great word.
It's such a
Moorish. Yeah.
it's such a comfy bread
Oh,
too.
it's
Like you bite
delicious.
into it and there's that crisp, but there's the softness and
Best thing, that dish is a very Punjabi dish. So it's the best thing ever. Like I remember having that when I was younger, and I was like, God, shut the front door. This is my favorite food to eat. And then you have it in India as a street food, and it
Mm.
is just delicious. So again, so now when we were younger, we'd have this as a Sunday morning brunch now and then. My mum would make it. Again, the important sides, the pickled onions, the chutneys, there's green chutney, there'll be like a yogurt chutney, lots of things that go with it, some
Mm.
carrots, all about textures and crunching. Um,
yeah.
my mouth is salivating talking about this. And then we're going to have this on Diwali because, again, it now becomes a treat, a bit like you said, Erin, where we don't have a fryer, we don't have that all the time. So when we do have it, people obviously time conscious because, yeah, to make this, it will take like a bit of a process. So if Diwali is on a Monday during the week, I'll make sure that the chickpeas are done the night before. You can
Hmm.
kind of prep the dough, but then just
Yeah.
obviously having it fried on the day is a different matter. But you can get all the everything planned and prepared beforehand, which I think is really, really good. And I think it's really, really key. But the good thing is when we also on purpose, accidentally on purpose, I do more dough. So it means I have to then use it the next day and it even tastes better. So the
Mhm.
fact of this dish, it's just one of my favorites. And it's just people do love carbs. And I think when we associate food, it's an emotion. So when you're having bread dipped into warm, cozy, spicy, like what
Mm.
else can you want in life? And I just think that's what's so, it's just so important, isn't it? And my children love it. They say, oh, we're having that the fried bread, what we
Mm.
have in that, the one that I pop, they love that too. So it makes me happy that they love this as much as I do.
Mm.
Mm. Well, and our
Yeah.
families loved it too.
I'm so happy to
Yeah,
hear
my
that.
kids, my kids took the last of it in their lunch
Hmm.
with some rice and chickpeas
Oh,
and
did
split the
they?
last piece of bread
I
and they took it
know.
in their lunch to school. And
Oh,
they,
that makes me so happy.
yeah,
That
they
genuinely
loved
makes
it.
me, oh, that makes me
Mhm.
so happy. And it's so nice that, learning about different food and traditions of food, and they've taken it in the lunchbox, so it's just completely different to what they're normally used to. And embracing that makes me so happy.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
we loved it.
And really, even though it's a different process, it did not take that long
Yeah.
to cook this. Like you say, you prep the dough beforehand, you let it sit. And I mean, that's almost like as a home cook, my favorite thing when I can like start on something and then do something else, and then that thing's, sitting,
Yeah.
resting, doing what it needs to. And
Yeah.
then when you come back to frying it, I think I had these all fried in like 45 minutes.
Just so good. And I think like at the end where we all say it takes ages to prep and food and stuff and minutes to demolish it, but it's so nice to know that you've still got, I feel chickpeas
Mm.
making all of this as well. I feel like it's such a good dish that you never goes down in the pan. Everyone's having bowlfuls and then you go back to it and you go, yes, we've got leftovers for tomorrow. And it just makes you happy, keeps on giving. And I think maybe in our portion size, I did do it like as a family size. But the good thing about like Indian food like this, when you cook fresh, you can freeze it. You can put a
Mhm.
batch in, put it in the freezer, and you can come back to it in 2 weeks. Reserve that with some chapatis, naan. You could serve it with rice, and it's just so good, and it still tastes fresh and delicious. And it's
Mm.
just such a good. Beans are so good as well, full of protein. It's healthy, and it's just a really nice.
Mhm. And once you have the ingredients in your pantry,
Mhm.
Totally,
it's inexpensive,
yeah,
Mhm.
a cup like to buy the beans,
yeah,
the
Yeah.
peas, and then you can just whip it together. And
I
as you
agree.
said, when you kind of gain a little confidence as you play around, you
Yeah.
get comfortable with how the recipe works. You can
Yeah.
substitute things or leave things out or add something different. I love that. That's
I like that flexible cooking, making food that way because we not everyone has time to do step by step and like one day if I make that dish, next time I make it will be different and that's okay. We
Hmm.
just learn from our dishes and because of the time lifestyle that we all lead, time is of the essence whether we meal prep, whether we make it on the day. I just think anything goes and that's what I think easy recipes is key. People just need to have something that they can follow and as you said in life it becomes as a confidence thing. The minute people talk about spices or spices that people are not familiar with, it stops people from cooking.
for sure. Okay, so what would you say are your top tips for beginners who would like to try making Indian food and maybe are a little intimidated? I think you've given us a few along the way here, but do you have any top tips you would say to get going with?
I think you covered it. I think where preparation is key. If you just measure and prep everything beforehand, I think it makes life easy. Depending on which recipe you have, some recipes involve a quick bang, 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 bang in. And
Hmm.
if you're not prepared, you're then stressing about the heat level in the pan. And then
Yeah.
that's where I think that's the point where everybody gets frazzled.
Yes.
And I think a lot of like South Asian families have little spice tins which have all the spices in one place, which has always helped. So you see a lot of like families having like spice tins where there's like 9 containers which have the main spices in. So that my mum would always bring that down and we'd put that in. And I think that's important just to have everything prepared. Give yourself some time. And like we said, just be confident with it. And that confidence comes with experience and time. If you've made a mistake, there's always a way to rectify it. I would probably start with a simple, easy dal because I think dal is something that you can make, you can get on well with. Um, but I think recipes like that, you can boil the dal whilst you're waiting for it to cook, and you can start on something else, which is like the tadka, which is the spices and the seasoning. So I just think having that ready makes a huge difference as well. I think there's so many easy dishes that you can start with and then just build your way up and just love and just I think people get so scared that just puts them off completely. My idea,
Mhm.
just try it. You can only get better. But I think as well within the cost crisis that most people around the world are in, I think it's such a friendly, easy budget recipes that you can make as well. Like a packet of lentils goes so far and it's
Yeah.
just really flexible. I think it's just really good flexible cooking, and that's what we want in this day and age. That's what we want.
Yeah.
When I do speak to my mum, she's able to whip up 2, 3 dishes or 4 on a night, and that's okay because there was time. She had
Hmm.
time at that stage. We might not get 1 or even 2 out, but it's okay. You just have to go with what's easy for you
Hmm.
and your family. So that's why I think it's so important from a very young age to enforce good relationships with food. We've all got a different relationship with food, whether, you're a beige child who doesn't eat food or you don't eat this. It's so important to connect those relationships now. And
Hmm.
that's something that I'd love to focus on for workshops for children because getting them involved, getting them part of the process out of their comfort zone and food that they're not, like I said, necessarily able to see. There's parents that are on budget, there's parents that are dealing with children who don't like anything else but beige food or different cultures that don't eat like different food. So it's really really trying to get that balance from children, but it makes such a difference as we're growing up because when I see people and speak to people as we're cooking, that's where it stems from.
Well, this has been really enjoyable, and your book is just gorgeous. Not just,
Yes.
as we can attest to, not just delicious recipes and fun crafts, but the book itself, the photos are beautiful,
The
it's colorful.
colorful, yeah.
Yeah, it really seems to embody Diwali, which
Yeah,
is, I mean, obviously that's what you were going for, and it's gorgeous. So we encourage anyone listening who wants to check out Renu's book, please go and find it. Can you tell everybody where they can get it?
it's available. You can get it on Amazon, and hopefully we'll put a link in below, and you can click on that link directly, which will take you to the book. Thank you so much, and has a really good Diwali this year as well. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us and our listeners. This has been wonderful.
Amazing. Thank you for trying out the food. I'm so glad that it went well for you,
Oh, it
honestly.
was awesome.
And now for the fine print. Links to recipes and other things we talked about in this episode can be found in the show notes or on our website, www.threekitchenspodcast.com. Come say hello on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, and TikTok. We'd love to connect. And if you enjoy the show, pass it on. Word of mouth is the #1 way people learn about new podcasts. Thank you so much for listening.